Oh, you look surprised. What's up, everyone? I'm Jared. I'm a communist. Involved in this 7KorSTrike campaign at CUNY. I also organize in a group called CUNY Struggle. It's very humbling and exciting to be a part of what's shaping up to be a national strike wave, public sector workers. And I think it's important to consider this in its political and historical context. Capital has been in crisis for decades. This is not a sustainable mode of production. It's not a humane way of living. And since at least the 1970s in the United States, the crisis of capital has been foisted onto the backs, not of the ruling class, but of everyday working people. And we see this manifested through declining wages and standards of living, decreases in job security and benefits, and the veritable gutting of the public sector. And you know, for a lot of us who have been in the movement for a minute, in these low movement periods, it's tempting to look at things getting worse and worse and worse and say, oh my goodness, is this just a race to the bottom with no end in sight? And I think that the movement of public sector workers across the country over the last year or two, led by teachers, led by traditionally feminized occupations, and now resonating throughout the country, is a resounding no. This is not an endless race to the bottom. People are fed up. People are fed up with the crisis of capital being foisted on the backs of working people. And you see right now the opportunity for a movement that's adequate to meet this crisis of social reproduction with a broad-based class struggle capable of going on the offensive for a change. And so, who are you?
My name's Tom. Tom Waters. Yeah! I organize with Jared both in CUNY Struggle and in the broader 7KorSTrike movement. I think most people here probably know what an adjunct is, but an adjunct is essentially a contingent semester-to-semester academic worker at the college level with no job security. At CUNY, we make about $3,200 per course, so if we teach a full load like a full-time professor does, that's working out to roughly $28,000 a year. And I want to pick up on something that Julia said, which was like, you know, the college still exists, I think, for like mainstream Americans, this sort of fantasy land in a way. I go and I will get a job that pays the bills. And it goes double for people who work in academia. You have a lot of people from what we would consider privileged backgrounds going to graduate school and then finding themselves proletarianized. But by that experience, at CUNY anyway, adjuncts teach 63% of the courses. And what I have sort of developed and grown along with in this movement is seeing just how much PSE, CUNY, our union, is a dyed-in-the-wool business union. It is the left wing of CUNY management. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there to take these people like adjuncts and sympathetic full-timers who kind of live in the ivory tower behind these ivy gates and say, look, you're exploited too, and not to look up because your leaders are not going to save you, but to look horizontally with people like Nicena. That's where they have
So if you don't know anything about the campaign, I'll give it to you in 30 seconds. We're in this massive business union. It's a wall-to-wall union, so it represents a number of titles throughout the CUNY system, not all of whom are as proletarianized as adjuncts. Some of the top tiers have, have comfortable standards of living and are perhaps not necessarily interested in putting it all on the line in a strike against the Taylor Law, which of course prohibits public sector striking. Yeah, that's right. And so we've been building, for years now, a lot of us have been organizing, but over the last 18 months, since our contract expired, which is funny, for those of you not from New York, yeah, the contracts expire and we just go on working. Since our contract expired, we've been building a campaign around a $7,000 minimum wage for CUNY adjuncts. And like Tom said, it's roughly half that at present. And so the important part about this campaign is that we forced the I don't want to call them the leadership anymore, We're the fucking leadership.
Our union.
We forced the nominally elected union officers, whatever, the Wizard of Oz. We forced them to adopt the $7,000 demand, which was an adjunct demand. We didn't come up with it; it had been kicking around for a while. We had forced them to adopt that as probably the foremost demand in this current round of contract negotiations. They tried to weasel out of it. They tried to meet behind closed doors with certain CUNY influencers and convince them it wasn't possible. That failed, and now they're stuck with this demand that was foisted on them by the rank and file. Now, of course, they don't want to fight for it. They don't want to wage the kind of fight that it's going to take to win something as transformative as a $7,000 minimum wage for adjunct. And so we've been fighting this kind of war of position, not only against the forces of austerity within the city and state government, but also within the forces of austerity within our union, including the leadership, which, as Tom said, amounts to the left wing of CUNY management. And so in this war of position, we're effectively maneuvering and counter-maneuvering to make it virtually impossible for them to settle with the kind of bullshit contracts that have been foisted onto CUNY adjuncts for as long as any of us can remember. And so the 7KorSTrike campaign is very much in the tradition of some of these teacher strikes that you see popping up all over the country. Dare I say, a crowdsourced affair, and it's certainly coming from the bottom up.
And Leftoids has done a much better job covering us than, say, like Jacobin or something like that. Yeah, it's an uphill battle. Like we're not even at the kind of point that someone like Neisman is right now, even though I know that their union leadership has done some really shady things. So we have a battle in front of us, but every day there are more of us. 21% of the union membership at Brooklyn College has signed a 7KorSTrike pledge card.
Yeah.
Union management is losing their shit. They wrote an open letter denouncing us, and we had like almost 1,000 hits on our website that day. They're kind of giving us free publicity. Their tactics are outdated. They're not very bright, and
They don't understand memes.
they don't.
So they think memes are intellectual property theft. This is
Yeah, and we appreciate the support that an outlet like Leftoids is giving us. And we want to
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.